absolute majority of Russian parliament members voted in favor of the bill in the second and third recitation, so the Russian State Duma voted for a bill filed the day before, which changes the rules for conscription for military service. At the same time, the Russian deputies immediately indicated innovations will affect everyone.
Here we are talking about all those liable for military service. It will affect all citizens who are in the military reserve. Andrei Kartapolov, chairman of the Defense Committee of the State Duma of Russia, at a meeting of parliament.
163 votes for and only one against the bill, and the Federation Council supported the new amendments. It was immediately sent to Putin for signature, and they only regretted that it was not implemented earlier.
This is our mistake of legislators, that we failed to ensure that our citizens were properly informed about the content of this law before its adoption. Therefore, I carefully looked through the entire internet and considered it necessary to comment on this too. Valentina Matvienko, chairwoman of the Federation Council of Russia, at a meeting of the Council.
The Russian president has to formally sign the law. Already now, attempts to evade military service in Russia are becoming more and more difficult.
The amendments introduce new rules, including, in particular, electronic alerts from military registration and enlistment offices duplicate traditional summons. Both documents have equal legal force. The summons will be considered received from the moment it is posted in the personal account of the person liable for military service on the GosUslugi portal. Summons to persons liable for military service can be sent by registered post. The summons will be deemed served after 7 days from the date of its placement in the register of subpoenas. From the text of the bill.
In addition to the ability to draft people into the army online, the new amendments increase the punishment for attempts to evade military service. For example, for those who did not appear at the military registration and enlistment office within a certain period, a ban on crossing the border and arrest of part of the property is immediately provided.
This law, this amendment, one way or another, applies to every citizen of the Russian Federation who knows where the military registration and enlistment office is located, and who at least once in their life was there. If the mobilization office knows about you, it will affect you. This also applies to those who left the country. They can also receive summons. If the military registration and enlistment office knows about you, it will affect you. This also applies to those who left the country. They can also receive summons. They also may be subject to sanctions that these amendments imply.
So human rights activists warn, the only way not to take up arms after receiving a summons is to write a statement about alternative ways of military serving. There are simply no other options.
You should present this application in any incomprehensible situation when you somehow find yourself in the military registration and enlistment office. You won't be able to sneak out of this anymore. Therefore, if you find yourself there, if you are dragged there, if you receive a summons, go there only with this application. Don't leave the house without it. Show an application. Insist that it is in your belief that you do not take up arms, that you do not participate in hostilities.
According to Bloomberg, the Russian authorities plan to call on more than 400,000 recruits this year alone, most of whom will go to the war against Ukraine. And as long as there is no opportunity, the Russian authorities will try to get by with all possible methods without resorting to mobilization, which, as the publication explains, carries political risks for the Kremlin. Reported by Diana Kolesnik, Bogdan Maksimets, Mykita Babenko, UATV News.